Have you noticed your adult children becoming more distant lately? Are your phone calls getting shorter and visits becoming increasingly rare? What if I told you the problem might be hidden in the very words you're using when you speak to them? Today, I'm revealing the 5 toxic phrases that elderly parents should never say to their adult children. And believe me, phrase number 2 is so damaging that it might make them cut you off forever. I've spent years counseling families through these exact communication breakdowns, and I've seen firsthand how these seemingly innocent phrases can silently destroy relationships. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which toxic expressions to eliminate from your vocabulary and what to say instead to rebuild those precious family bonds before it's too late. Let me tell you about Harriet, a 72-year-old widow from Cleveland who couldn't understand why her 3 adult children had become increasingly distant over the past few years. Despite her best intentions, family gatherings had become tense, phone calls were brief, and her invitations were frequently declined. Harriet was heartbroken, feeling abandoned by the very children she had sacrificed so much to raise. It wasn't until she attended a family counseling session with her youngest daughter that Harriet had her breakthrough moment. The therapist pointed out specific phrases Harriet regularly used that were pushing her children away. Harriet was stunned. She had no idea her words were causing such damage. These weren't insults or obvious criticisms. They were common expressions many older parents use without realizing their destructive power. Once Harriet identified and eliminated these toxic phrases from her conversations, the transformation in her family relationships was remarkable. Within just 3 months, her children were calling more often, visits became more frequent, and the tension that had characterized their interactions for years began to dissolve. Today, I'm sharing with you the exact phrases that nearly destroyed Harriet's relationship with her children. The same phrases that might be silently eroding your family bonds right now. Let's dive into these relationship killers and learn what to say instead. Toxic. Phrase 1. After everything I've done for you. Have you ever felt underappreciated by your adult children and let this phrase slip out? I understand the temptation, but relationship psychologists warn that this expression is one of the most damaging forms of emotional manipulation parents can use. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, a leading family therapist at Northwestern University, explains that this phrase immediately creates a transactional view of your relationship with your children. When parents say, "After everything I've done for you," they're essentially keeping a scoreboard, she says. This transforms natural parental care into a debt that children can never repay, creating resentment rather than gratitude. Take Gregory, a 76-year-old retired accountant from Phoenix. He couldn't understand why his son rarely answered his calls anymore. During a rare dinner together, Gregory once again brought up how he had paid for his son's college education, saying, "After everything I've done for you, the least you could do is call me once a week." His son finally exploded, revealing that these guilt trips had been pushing him away for years. Gregory was devastated to learn that his attempts to stay connected were actually driving his son further away. With guidance from a family counselor, Gregory learned to express his actual feelings and needs directly. Instead of using guilt, try saying, "I really miss hearing your voice. I'd love if we could catch up more regularly. Would a Sunday call work for your schedule?" This approach communicates your desires without making your children feel indebted or manipulated. Remember, parenting was your choice, not an investment expecting returns. Your children don't owe you for the care you provided during their upbringing. By removing this phrase from your vocabulary, you'll immediately create a healthier dynamic based on mutual respect rather than obligation. Toxic phrase 2. Your spouse is turning you against me. This is the phrase that can make your children cut you off forever. Family relationship experts unanimously identify this accusation as relationship poison. When you suggest that your child's spouse is manipulating them against you, you're not just attacking their partner, you're insulting their judgment and autonomy. Dr. James Wilson, director of the Family Systems Institute, explains, "This statement forces adult children to choose between loyalty to their parent or their spouse, a no-win situation that creates extreme stress. Repeatedly forcing this choice will inevitably damage or destroy the parent-child relationship." Barbara, a 68-year-old grandmother from Seattle, learned this lesson the hard way. She constantly implied that her son's wife was preventing him from visiting. Comments like, "I bet Sarah doesn't want you spending time with me," or "You never acted this way before you got married," seemed harmless to Barbara. What she didn't realize was that her son was sharing these comments with his wife, creating tremendous tension in their marriage. The situation reached a breaking point when Barbara publicly blamed her daughter-in-law at a family gathering for stealing her son. That night, her son sent a text message explaining they needed a break from the relationship. That break lasted 18 months. Barbara missed holidays, birthdays, and the birth of her first grandchild. It took professional counseling and a sincere apology to both her son and daughter-in-law before healing could begin. Now Barbara makes a conscious effort to support their marriage rather than undermine it. Instead of blaming your child's spouse, try, "I value both of you so much. I'm still learning the best ways to be supportive of your family. Could we find more opportunities to connect that work well for everyone?" This approach respects their partnership and acknowledges your child's adult relationship as the priority it should be. Toxic phrase 3. In my day, we did things differently. This seemingly innocent nostalgic comment carries a hidden sting that can seriously damage your relationship with adult children. Communication experts explain that this phrase immediately establishes a competitive framework between generations and suggests that modern approaches are inferior to past methods. Dr. Sophia Chen, professor of intergenerational studies at Boston University, notes, "When elderly parents frequently reference their day, they're unintentionally creating distance. This phrase positions them as critics rather than allies, particularly when discussing parenting, careers, or lifestyle choices." Consider Timothy, a 74-year-old grandfather from Nashville. He couldn't understand why his daughter became defensive whenever he offered childcare advice. He frequently began suggestions with, "In my day, we didn't have all these complicated safety rules," or, "In my day, children respected their parents." Timothy was genuinely trying to help, but his approach made his daughter feel judged and undermined as a parent. After his daughter finally explained how these comments affected her, Timothy changed his approach. He began asking questions about modern parenting techniques instead of criticizing them. He expressed genuine curiosity about why certain practices had changed. The tension between them gradually dissolved, and his daughter became more receptive to occasionally incorporating some of his traditional wisdom. Instead of emphasizing generational differences, try saying, "I'm interested in understanding how you approach this. Would it be helpful to hear what worked for me when you were growing up?" This formulation offers your experience as an option, rather than positioning it as superior. Remember, your goal should be connection, not correction. When you show respect for your adult children's decisions, they're much more likely to value your perspective and seek your input voluntarily. Toxic phrase 4. You never visit, call me. These absolute statements might feel true in moments of loneliness, but relationship counselors warn they're relationship destroyers. Using words like never or always distorts reality and immediately puts your children on the defensive. Dr. Michael Ramirez, family psychologist and author of Healing Family Relationships, explains, absolute statements like, "You never visit," create a no-win situation for adult children. Even if they visited last month, the parent has declared this insufficient. This creates resentment and anxiety around future interactions. Consider Evelyn, a 70-year-old widow from Chicago. She frequently complained to her daughter, "You never call me, and I haven't heard from you in ages," even when they'd spoken the previous week. Her daughter began dreading their interactions, knowing that no matter how often she called, it would never be enough to avoid these accusations. The breakthrough came when Evelyn's friend suggested she keep a journal of all family interactions. Evelyn was shocked to discover that she actually heard from her daughter 2 to 3 times weekly through calls, texts, and social media. The problem wasn't frequency, but Evelyn's perception and expectations. Working with a therapist, Evelyn learned to acknowledge each connection positively rather than focusing on the gaps between them. She began expressing gratitude for specific interactions. I really enjoyed our call last Tuesday. Or, thank you for sending those photos of the kids. Instead of making accusations, try, I treasure our time together. I've been feeling a bit lonely lately and would love to find a regular time to connect that works with your schedule. What might that look like? This approach expresses your feelings and needs without blame or exaggeration. Understanding that your adult children are balancing careers, their own children, and numerous other responsibilities helps put your relationship in perspective. By acknowledging their efforts rather than focusing on perceived deficiencies, you'll create a much healthier dynamic. Toxic phrase 5. You'll regret it when I'm gone. Using your mortality as emotional leverage might seem like a surefire way to get attention, but experts warn it's actually driving your children away. This phrase combines guilt, manipulation, and fear in a toxic mixture that damages trust and creates anxiety. Dr. Elizabeth Parker, gerontologist and family counselor at the University of Michigan, explains, when elderly parents invoke their mortality as a threat, they're creating a traumatic association around their eventual passing. Rather than motivating more connection, these statements often trigger avoidance as adult children attempt to escape the emotional manipulation. Take Robert, a 78-year-old grandfather from Denver. Whenever his children couldn't attend a family gathering or disagreed with his advice, he would say, well, someday I'll be gone, and you'll wish you had listened to me. Or, you'll regret not spending more time with me when I'm dead. His children began limiting their interactions with him, finding the emotional blackmail unbearable. The situation changed when Robert's oldest son finally confronted him, explaining how these comments affected the family. With professional help, Robert realized he was expressing legitimate fears about being forgotten or insignificant, but in a destructive way. He learned to communicate his desire for connection directly, rather than through veiled threats. Instead of weaponizing your mortality, try, these family moments mean so much to me. I hope we can create more memories together in the coming months. This expresses your desire for connection without manipulation or guilt. Remember, quality relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding, not obligation or fear. Your children will want to spend time with you because they enjoy your company, not because they're afraid of future regret. The hidden danger of these phrases. What makes these 5 phrases particularly dangerous is how common and seemingly innocent they appear. Most elderly parents who use them have no idea of the damage they're causing. They genuinely believe they're expressing legitimate concerns or just making conversation. Neuroscience research conducted at Harvard Medical School reveals why these phrases are so harmful. Dr. Ifo, Jonathan Hayes explains, when people hear these types of accusatory or manipulative statements from loved ones, their brains trigger the same stress response as a physical threat. Over time, this creates an avoidance pattern, essentially training the person to limit contact with the source of stress. This explains why many adult children gradually reduce communication with parents who use these phrases. It's not a conscious decision to abandon their parents. It's a natural psychological response to emotional distress. The good news is that recognizing these patterns is the first step to breaking them. By consciously replacing these toxic phrases with healthier alternatives, you can begin repairing damaged relationships immediately. Transforming your communication style. Changing long-standing communication habits isn't easy, especially when they've become automatic responses. Here's a practical 3-step approach recommended by family therapists. First, practice self-awareness. Notice when you're about to use one of these toxic phrases. What emotion is driving it? Are you feeling lonely, underappreciated, or afraid? Identifying the underlying need will help you express it more directly. Second, pause before speaking. When you feel the urge to say one of these phrases, take a deep breath and consciously choose a healthier alternative. This may feel awkward initially, but with practice, it will become natural. Third, focus on expressing your feelings and needs directly. Instead of saying, "You never visit me," try, "I've been feeling lonely lately and would love to see you more often." This expresses the same underlying concern without blame or accusation. Remember Patricia, a 75-year-old grandmother from Boston who transformed her relationship with her 3 adult children by eliminating these phrases. After months of strained interactions, she committed to changing her communication style. At first, her children were skeptical, but as she consistently demonstrated new patterns of interaction, the walls between them gradually came down. 6 months later, Patricia's daughter surprised her by suggesting they take a weekend trip together, something that would have been unimaginable during their previous communication dynamic. It wasn't that my children didn't love me, Patricia reflected. They just couldn't handle the emotional burden of my communication style. Building stronger bonds, moving forward. Now that you understand which phrases to avoid, let's focus on positive communication strategies that strengthen family bonds. Express appreciation regularly. Notice and acknowledge the ways your children do show up for you, rather than focusing on what's missing. Respect boundaries. Recognize that your adult children have responsibilities and priorities beyond your relationship with them. Show interest in their lives without demanding they prioritize you above all else. Make interactions enjoyable. Be the parent your children want to talk to, not the one they feel obligated to check on. Share positive news, ask about their interests, and avoid turning every conversation into a complaint session. Offer support without judgment. Be a resource for your children when they need advice or assistance, but respect their decisions even when they differ from your recommendations. Create new traditions that accommodate everyone's changing lives. Rather than insisting on maintaining every historical family practice, collaborate on creating gatherings that work for current circumstances. By implementing these positive strategies while eliminating toxic phrases, you'll create a family dynamic built on mutual respect and genuine connection, rather than obligation or guilt. Now you know the 5 toxic phrases that are silently destroying your relationship with your adult children, and you have practical alternatives to use instead. Remember, it's never too late to change communication patterns and rebuild connections. Your relationship with your children can grow stronger and more meaningful in these later years, but it requires conscious effort and willingness to adapt. If you've recognized any of these phrases in your own communication, don't beat yourself up. Awareness is the first step toward positive change. Start today by choosing one phrase to eliminate and its healthy alternative to practice. Your children will notice the difference, even if they don't immediately comment on it. Did you recognize any of these phrases in your conversations with your adult children? Let me know in the comments which one surprised you the most. If you found this advice helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more insights on strengthening family relationships in your golden years. Share this video with friends who might benefit from this information. It could save a precious family relationship.